What is up, fam? It's BobbyFi back with my man Sheets. Hopefully you guys saw mine and Jack breakdown of the DraftKings slate. He actually talked a lot of Fanduel because he's a primarily Fanduel player actually, but does play a lot of DraftKings, has won every major tournament there is, one of the top players in the world. Nice to have him back in the mix with us, back from the old RG days. It was nice. So if you haven't checked that out, please check that out and give it the like, the thumbs up, and we'll keep doing more of them for you. But I'm back with my main man, Sheets. We're going to talk some Fanduel, and we are going to look at this incredible, interesting slate that feels like it's going to be very condensed in certain spots.
You say so.
In certain spots.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about, it's a great tournament slate, a great bounce back from a Sunday where if Miles Sanders doesn't slide at the end, it changes your ROI from negative to a huge, huge positive return anyway. But that's aside.
I think it's going to be an interesting review because you're just coming off of the review with Jack and just focused on DraftKings. And I just did kind of like one on my own Fanduel, not knowing if you were going to be around. So I'm just curious to see, first of all, the crossover between DraftKings and Fanduel and the crossover between you having it analyzed without talking to me and me having analyzed without talking to you, kind of where everything kind of falls. I'm kind of interested to see what happens.
Well, I will tell you right now that we have a lot of similar players, but not as many as.
No, don't. You don't even know what this is. So what this is, I guess we can do an overall slate. What this is when I got to the very end of the review, and we'll talk about it, I was saying, okay, so you can't really play these Washington guys in a stack with New York unless you go totally off the board elsewhere and play different guys. For example, and that's why I kind of like went with this. So we could just go start from wherever you want. You want to start with the Washington game?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the Washington game for me, and again, I really prepared because I made my list of chalk guys that I like and low-owned guys that I like. I'm pretty sure I know what's going on with the slate. Is, the interesting thing, obviously, about the Washington game is the Washington has no players, okay? They lost, like, all their players to the point where they have, like, Gary Payton is, like, on the roster, I think, for tonight's game. Garrison Matthews is on the roster for tonight's game. And, normally you would think, oh, great, so what's the big deal? So how can I play these guys? They're just going to get run out of the building wherever they are. Yet they're playing the Knicks, okay? So it's going to be interesting. So the first thing I kind of look at is, first of all, is the game stackable and what ownership is. Now on FanDuel, Ish Smith and Beal are both going to be over 50%, okay? Well, at least now that's where they're looking to be, and I can certainly see why, especially Ish Smith. But you can make the case that Beal's going to be just as highly owned. There's just literally nowhere for the ball to go. And it is kind of a tight spread, so their minutes seem to be on the secure-ish side. So I could see where those guys would be the kind of the top plays. I really didn't even get to analyzing the rest of the guys. All I will tell you is that as far as projections go, Troy Brown looks to be the next guy, and he's going to be 25%. My thought is on the Knicks side is there are kind of four guys that I'm looking at, and one is Julius Randle, the other is Mitch Robinson, and the other two are R.J. Barrett and Elf Payton. And when I look at the ownership, Randle and Barrett are probably going to get some degree of ownership, especially with people that are going to stack this game. So if I were to stack the game, if I were to find guys, I would try to find a way to play Payton and or Robinson, just being the lower-owned guy, even though they might not be as great plays, just as a way to de-chalkify a stack a little bit. And I do stick to my guns on my Payton call. Didn't work out a couple of days ago when I tried it, but it did work out since then, is I do think that he is the point guard for whatever that's worth. And I think that in a matchup like this, we talk about who can benefit the most from matchups like this. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that this might be hot take, or this might be just like giving out stupid crap, but he seems to be a triple-double candidate waiting to happen in a game like this. But especially when Payton.
Oh yeah, no, I totally. I'm actually like oddly like I'm with you, and it's an interesting thing because I think Ish gets a lot more love tonight, and you have them both together. I happen to like some other point guards, but
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Knicks because we're not going to have Marcus Morris most likely.
Yep.
And if we don't have Taj Gibson also.
Then Bobby Portis becomes a good play.
He's interesting. It's hard because there's great center plays on FanDuel.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting pivot to make. Like there is enough upside to go there. I also think Mitchell Robinson becomes even more in play, but having a hard time with that one because there's another point guard coming. There's another center coming up that is I just feel so good about. It's hard for me to get off of them.
Well, imagine doing it the way I did. Imagine starting with the back games and falling in love with all these games leading up to this. Then I'm like, damn, I don't want these Washington, New York guys. I got other guys I want to play. So it's kind of interesting the way you analyze where you kind of get drawn to. Or if you started this game and you just said, oh, wow, all these guys are just going to look like good plays, then you come to the slate with a totally different angle.
I will just mention that the Knicks actually have bodies. Just, I guess, as one thing to maybe scare you off a little bit. But it does become more stackable because that usage goes away. What I would give the bump to is Barrett, Randall, and Payton the most, and then Robinson. Even though it's a big man, and then Portis, then Robinson. I just feel like you don't necessarily need to go big against Washington anyway. And I'm just looking for the usage now. So I'm going to go more Barrett, Payton, Randall. Now, the Payton thing is a little bit worrisome, but I looked at the close game history with Jack earlier. And in close games, he's basically been at 30 minutes. In 30 minutes of this type of game environment, a game we expect to stay close, it's really hard not to have interest, especially because we're going to be running it back with some guys from the other team. So I'm with you, man. Like, I just think that Derrick, it may be a little bit overlooked. He's going to get ownership, but not maybe as much as he should. And I actually think Payton gets overlooked on Fanduel because everyone plays Ish. But the weird part is, in a funny way, all of our worries with Payton and the fluctuating minutes and everything, we actually should worry even more about Ish. Because you can play Bradley Beal, Troy Brown, Bonga, Schofield, Mahinmi, or Matthews, or one of the other bigs, or even Justin Robinson. You don't need to play Ish. He's not a guy who this 35-minute projection that pretty much is across the board is most likely what happens. There are plenty of ways that's phased out completely, and Bradley Beal plays the one. I still think he probably does play 35 minutes, but I'm just throwing it out there that if we're worried about Payton playing 27 or Ish playing 35, and by the way, I would take a Payton 27 in this matchup versus an Ish 35. I would probably take a Payton 28 or 29, but I think Payton is the better upside play, and I don't think he's that much more risky when you take all things considered. Does that make sense?
So the way I looked at it, again, I was just kind of making notes of guys. So from this game, I would say that Ish and Beal are going to be the chalk guys, and you've laid out a case why Ish is not a lock, okay, but he is a good play.
Yeah,
and again, just to kind of remember, that if you're going to play guys like this, that as you go through the rest of the games and the rest of your builds, you can't play these guys with other chalk. That's all.
Fair enough.
All right.
Well,
Atlanta. What, you going to Atlanta, Cleveland?
You can, because it's a big enough slate to where you can probably differentiate just in one spot if you get other things right.
That's interesting. All right,
it's such a big slate. There's a lot of plays in this slate.
All right, so Atlanta, Cleveland. Again, I'm wondering if you guys on DraftKings cross this one off or not, because I'll actually have to watch to see. The Atlanta, Cleveland. I was going to just say that nobody looked that great there. I made a joke to Trae Young. I mean, is that he's not more expensive than Harden on FanDuel as opposed to DraftKings.
He's an awesome FanDuel tournament play.
Yeah. So what I did was there were two guys on Atlanta and two guys on Cleveland, and one I want to ask you about. The two guys in Atlanta that looked good were Trae Young and Herter, but I want to ask you about another guy. And on the Cleveland side, the guys looked just pretty good. Were Thompson and Love. So at 0% ownership, I don't think anybody's going to play all these guys. I would try one, with a 230 no pick 'em total, where I knew which guys I wanted to play from each team. I would try Trae with Love or Trae with Thompson, just as kind of a way to be different. The one guy I wanted to ask you about, which isn't popping, but there was some coach speak about him, was John Collins making his return. When they asked the coach about what he was going to do, he said when he comes back, he will be starting with absolutely no minutes restriction.
Yep. Fair enough. We can play him if we want to on FanDuel. The price is reasonable enough. I don't think he's a priority. I think Kevin Love is the best play in this game. And I think if I had to pick a second play, it would be Colin Sexton. I like both of them quite a bit. I think Sexton is a phenomenal pivot. Like, if Ish puts up 25 and Sexton and Payton both put up 35, even though they're a little bit more expensive, you're leapfrog completely. Everybody. It's a huge, and if your other plays, if you get your other plays right, of course, but you get to differentiate by just those playing those guys at point guard without the other, you know what I mean? Like the other obvious play, and no one's going to have that combination.
I'll tell you this, not that Ish Smith has the toughest matchup in the world either, but Sexton as a pivot playing against probably the worst defense there is pretty that could win you some big balloons.
Yep.
Okay, Toronto, Indiana. All right. So I don't know what it is on DraftKings, but on Fanduel on the Toronto side, Boucher looks projects to be pretty good at 3,900. Just be careful about looking at that game log, just because he played 24 minutes and smashed or whatever. But the reason why he got all those minutes is that unit led the charge back from like 30 down or something. So they were leaving them in, you know. So I would not expect that to be kind of a normal thing. So if he, again, like anything else, I mean, if he's low owned, sure, go. But if he becomes chalk in some way,
I don't think that's happening. Maybe a little bit more on FanDuel, but I don't think so.
You know, so I might try him, but you know, he's a guy, by the way, that I would not play with a low owned stack elsewhere. You know, he'd be a guy that has a lot of variance to him that I would put in like a safer, kind of a safer build where I needed some off the wall type thing, because he could, as we've seen, I mean, he could score 7 fantasy points. He could score 30 fantasy points, and he's got good usage, but his minutes are very fragile. And I don't know what else to say about that. Indiana, I was going to say that, you know, the one guy I would maybe try, well, obviously if Sabonis is out for some reason, I heard he's questionable, then you can go to Turner, but so will everybody else. But Brogdon would be the next guy, especially coming off of that game where everybody was expecting him to do really well going back to Milwaukee. Maybe he'll be really low owned, but then I look at his ownership and they show him 25%. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of in cross-off mode for this game.
Yeah, I think that's a good it's a good call. I could see a lot of arguments for a lot of guys, but I'm just probably not going to be doing much with it.
All right, so you got to talk about this Philadelphia thing. So first of all, Embiid's listed as questionable. If he doesn't play, then we just have to kind of redo the video, I guess.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, then all these other, you know, these usual Philly guys just come back into play. Simmons becomes, you know, I don't want to say a lock, but Simmons becomes better. Tobias Harris becomes better. All these guys become better if Embiid is out. I'm presuming Embiid is in. If Embiid is in, I'm kind of with you on the idea that until further notice, you should play Embiid if you can. I'm kind of into that whole idea that that the fire was lit under him, and until projections catch up, that you could just keep playing him with kind of some innate value to him. You know what I mean? Because he's not going to project that well from now until some period of time, and you could get him, and as long as you keep getting him at low ownership, I would certainly just include him in some lineups kind of every day. The Detroit side is where it gets really, really nasty. I don't know I presume Blake is out, but who knows? Luke Kennard being out is a real sneaky important thing. Derrick Rose, I don't know if he's going to play.
We have Kennard out for sure.
Yeah, well, I think I saw that on RG. I think they said
that actually, it does change things a little bit here.
Yeah, and Derrick Rose, I don't know if they have him in. I have him as, I mean, the projection system looking at him assumes him out, but yeah, obviously he's not ruled out yet. So you really have to see what's going on here. But given all of that, Andre Drummond is just an enormous play in the spot. And as usual, I kind of want Blake to be in to keep his ownership down a little bit. Luke Kennard being out is actually gives some really sneaky rebound upside to Drummond. Not that he needed it anyway, but Luke Kennard does get like a decent amount of rebounds, at least what I've been seeing. So however many incredible amount of rebounds Andre Drummond was going to get anyway, I think that Luke Kennard being out even secures that even more. And he's projecting really, really well. And I mean, I'm looking at ownership of 10%, which just to me just is not humanly possible. But if that's the case, I mean, look, on FanDuel, people are might have to end up going to Georgie Jang or to Aaron Baines or some of these, some of these more, at least lesser expensive centers. But, you know, if you want to pay up for Drummond or you want to pay up for Embiid, I mean, that'll certainly, I guess I know why they're 10% because they have those other just really cheap values. But the other guys in Detroit, I mean, Bruce Brown looks awesome. I mean, but who knows? Tim Frazier played the last game, but are those minutes predictable? I don't know. I don't know what else to do from the Detroit side. But from what I see, Bruce Brown would be the guy to go to. But who knows?
I think we just really need to know whether or not Blake's playing for all the and
Yep.
Rose. Like,
Yep.
if they're both not playing, then Bruce Brown and Markieff Morris are like incredible plays.
Right.
But if either or both do, like on this slate, do we need either of those guys? I don't know. Maybe. I would take a shot if they were both out on Langston Galloway. That's where I would lean along with Bruce Brown. Don't even mind if you do it together because they're so cheap if both those guys are out. But again, probably going to take both of them being out because of the other value we have. And but I have to say, like, I have a little bit of interest in Galloway here. If those guys are out, someone has to create offense. And everyone gave up on him where he was 1,000,000% owned because he didn't produce. We know he's streaky. Like, I'm willing to embrace it. The only issue is we've got some great value coming up that we have to try and decide between.
Does Bruce Brown or Galloway get outscored by Ish Smith like every time?
Maybe not every time, no. No, definitely not every time, but you could. But they're different prices.
Probably most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. Like, when you think about it like that, yeah, but it doesn't mean you can't play them together. What I would point out is that on FanDuel, like, the position stuff is different. Like, on DraftKings, it's really – you want all the guards. So it's really tricky. Like, I'm finding guards left and right. And there's great center options too, but that's the problem is, like, there's just too many guards that I want on this slate. And we haven't even gotten to some of them yet. So
let's go.
Let's move on.
Chicago, Orlando, there's two guys from this game that I'm interested in. Both of them are going to be chalky, and both of them are just going to be one-offs. I don't like anybody from the Chicago side in this game, although it's interesting that their rotations are getting a little more condensed, so their starters are getting like real, legitimately predictable minutes. But
yeah,
this is just, I don't know. But to me, this is just the nut low matchup. I mean, like, this is going to be like walking the ball off the court, and that reflects in the projections. I mean, none of them project great. Look, as usual, I have no problem with you playing a couple of Zach LaVines just because, you know, it's funny, and you corrected me on this once before, like 3 weeks ago, when I said LaVine is great because he has high upside, he's unpredictable, he's all over the board, and you're like, I wouldn't be so sure that he's so unpredictable. The guy gets there every freaking game.
Yeah.
so and since you said that, I think he's, you know, gotten 5x at least every game.
Yeah, look at these numbers: 48, 42, 49, 43, 26. That was one of the bad ones. 49, 48. I'll take that percentage.
No kidding. And but my plays are on the other side. Vooch looks to be a tremendously good play. Yet another great play at center. So, you know, put him in there. But they show him being 25% owned. You know, it's very possible.
I will go ahead and say that I think Vooch is the best play in center.
Yeah. Well, he's projecting that way, and so he's a good play. And the second guy is at 5,900 Isaac. He projects to be a really, really good play too. It's not a stackable game for me, and neither of these guys are going to be low owned, so you're not going to, you know, I make sure to put them in the right types of lineups, but those are two really, really good plays as far as just plays go.
Yeah, I agree. I'm finding my builds a little different leaving Isaac out, which I don't like, but I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? There's plenty of ways to go on this slate, and I know how I'm doing my builds over here. I'm basically not paying down at center anywhere on FanDuel. Like, I feel like I have enough love for Vooch. I have enough love for what I've mentioned about the Embiid narrative thing. He's averaged 57 fantasy points since that time, and in a game that we think, you know, could be close against a rival, I feel like I would give the edge to Embiid over Drummond, but I like Drummond as well. So it's kind of hard between those three guys, like, for me to find other centers on FanDuel. But I really like Vooch, and Vooch is the one who's my priority. I understand that he'll have ownership. The price, the matchup are just it's just hard for me to envision a world if this game is, like, not within 20 points where he doesn't put up 40 And I think that there's 60 in there like a ton of the time. So Vooch and Levine, if you want to run it back, Levine, you could, like we say, first of all, I don't know why the projections are always broke on Zach Levine. Why is he always projected under 5X and literally always 6X is his price? Like, I don't know. But it's just always play Zach Levine and you can feel good about it. I don't think you really want to mess around with this game, though, on this slate in general. I don't think that Zach Levine should be a priority, but certainly a great tournament play, as always, to go with running it back with Vooch if you want to.
All right. So next game, Utah-Miami. Don't try this at home, but just to let you know my thought process. Again, I was going game by game from the back forward, trying to find good combinations of trying to find a game with low-owned guys on each team that project well to maybe create some stacks that are going to be a little off the board. And I couldn't find much, and God help me, but this Utah-Miami game, I ended up getting to. So on the Miami side, I had Jimmy Butler as a pretty good play at no ownership, right? And the reason why he had no ownership is he just hasn't gotten there in forever, okay?
In the matchup.
Right, we're getting there, right? So first, he hasn't gotten there in forever, and they're playing Utah. So how the hell can you freaking play him? All I'm saying is that he projects very similarly to other guys in his price range. Not even his price range, but based on value. And at low ownership, I looked to see if there's anybody on Utah that projected well too. And unfortunately, Gobert looks pretty good. Yet another center. Is he a better play than Vooch? Hell no. Okay. But, again, you get him at zero ownership. And then Ingles looks to be okay. Mitchell looks to be okay. So if you want something that no one's going to play, I am going to try one or two with Butler on one side, Mitchell Ingles, Mitchell Gobert, Mitchell Bojanovic, and then I'll just lose. Okay. But again, like this is kind of my process. When I find decently projected guys on both sides of games, they're going to be low and I'm going to try it. It's an 11-game slate. It has very little chance to win, but I'm just kind of throwing it up.
I don't mind the Butler play, and me and Jack actually discussed this about how great players have to play great in tough matchups sometimes. Yeah. This does fit that bill. His price is nice. So I actually like him a lot. I don't think I want on this slate to mess around with Utah. It just doesn't make enough sense to me, like why
I don't blame you.
Why I would do that.
But he's certainly a guy like Butler. He's going to be like one of my low-owned kind of one-off guys also that I could put in with other things.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there were two plays in this game that stood out as potential pivot off of value, and they were a long shot one in Moutier, which is not where I would go. But I would take a shot or two on Kelly Olynyk, probably more on DraftKings.
Interesting.
Kelly Olynyk is, the minimum on Fanduel. He's near the minimum on DraftKings. He really struggled in some of his games recently, but did have 28 in the last game. You know what I mean? You'd take that at his price, certainly at the minimum price. It's the kind of matchup where he could potentially beat them from the outside. In fact, if you look at it, 3 of his last 5 games, he's put up over 27 fantasy points. Like, there's upside here for a guy like that, especially when you factor in that there's always like foul trouble potential with big men. So maybe he gets some minutes at the solo 5, and he also gets some at the 4. Maybe a little bit of a minute upside towards 24 or 26 instead of 21, which is where he's projected pretty much across the board. But just wanted to throw him out there. Not a priority, but that's where I would lean on. Otherwise, I would just like to get rid of this game.
Well, I mean, interestingly, is also this is kind of like self-fulfilling. But when he gets those minutes, you see that he produces. You know what I mean? He's a full 1 fantasy point per minute guy. So if he does get 20 minutes, I mean, he's going to be in the ballgame.
Yeah, and it's a deceptively good matchup for guys like him, like who stretch the Jazz out from a big man spot, which is not what they thrive on.
Okay, San Antonio, Memphis. I do have 2 guys from each side that look okay. One of them is just too high owned though. So on the San Antonio side, I do show what's his name, DeRozan being all right, and I guess he's looking to be pretty low owned actually. And LaMarcus Aldridge is kind of okay, and he's looking to be more popular. As far as Memphis goes, Solomon Hill is popping as a decent value. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I could do it. I mean, it's 3,700. I'm not saying you can't do it.
I I
But
won't.
John Morant, what's that?
Tell you what, I won't do it.
Okay, and John Morant, he looks okay, but it's certainly not a stackable game for me. And again, I would just kind of go back to the ownerships and see if anybody was that low owned. I mean, like if you get even John Morant's 10%, it's not like he's 2% or something like that. So I guess if you wanted to play DeMar DeRozan, I mean, is he really going to be 4%? I mean, 4%. I'm just going to have to probably play some of it. But,
yeah, I love the off the board. I mentioned this one to Jack. He was sort of off of it too. I think DeRozan, Aldridge, Murray are all strong plays. It's a terrific game environment for all of them. I don't think that I'm like if Joe Val is out, then I will stack this game. But if Joe Val's in, I don't mind playing any of those guys, and I don't mind Joe Val at all. I think his projections, he's another one the projections are always broken on. So let's just take a quick look at his last games. He put up in his last game timeout in 30 minutes, he put up 43. The game before that, 26 minutes, he put up 40. The game before that, in 25 minutes, he put up 41. One of those was a blowout. This guy has gotten there, and then he's put up 250 he had 3 in a row with 60, 53, and 57 back-to-back before. He's questionable. If he plays, when he goes on these little runs, I think this is when you want to get on board. And that 40 has room to get to that 60 that he hit before, especially in what's become a great matchup against the Spurs bigs. So I think he's a really, really sneaky play if you want to go for a different build at center. I would play him over Mitchell Robinson if I knew he was going to play. If I didn't know that, going into it, I would probably play Robinson ahead of him on FanDuel.
all right. I move on?
Yep.
Okay. Denver at Phoenix. I was anticipating this not to be a stackable game, and I was not disappointed. Because starting with the Denver side, I really didn't like anybody. The two guys that looked decent on FanDuel, just one officer, Barton and Plumlee. So as you might imagine, if Plumlee looks kind of okay, probably not going to be a stackable game for me because for Plumlee to go off I'm not going to have the guys on Phoenix, in the game for the whole game. I don't think. So on the Phoenix side with 8 and out, Baines is just a tremendous play. He's going to be really popular, and definitely have to play him at some point. I think if they're showing 18%, I just based on these projections, I think he should be higher, but who knows? Now the other big thing about this game is that Rubio. So I don't know if Rubio is going to be out or not. So the system I'm looking at that has him out. Now all of a sudden, Oubre, I imagine, is going to be a pretty decent play regardless of whether Rubio is out. But now you get Elie Kobo, who now looks to be a good play. Saric, who I would imagine.
I don't think we're going to know about Rubio before, unfortunately.
Right. So what's interesting to me is that with Rubio out, it's not showing Booker as really being even a good play with Rubio, which is very surprising to me.
He's questionable too, Booker.
Oh, is Booker questionable too?
Yeah.
So, and if that's the case, I mean, then you just have to just wait and see, But with FanDuel, you don't have any choice. I don't think I'm going to speculate on.
Yeah, I don't think there's a reason to.
These Akobos or whatever, but I definitely. I mean, I don't know what you discussed about Aaron Baines on DraftKings, but at 4,300, and he's going to show up as a good value everywhere, so he's going to be owned. I don't know how owned, but we'll see what happens. But he's certainly a really good value.
Yeah, as of right now, I told you that I love those other center plays so much. It's really hard for me on a one center site to play him, but I think I could play him on DraftKings. And I think I could play him on FanDuel. The truth is I'll probably have more DraftKings lineups than FanDuel lineups today. So while I like Baines, I don't think this is it just feels like there's a lot of guys at center who could really smash tonight.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm okay. I'm definitely good with the play in general. I don't think it's as much of a lock as everyone thinks it is. He got more minutes in the last. It's not like a guarantee, although you'd think against Jokic he would. It's just a little bit fluctuating. What I would say is that Dario Saric on FanDuel, now that he's been announced in, is a terrific play. I think that at 4.3, just there's a lot of upside there. Guy always gets under-owned here. So he'll be one of the guys who you can pay down at power forward as a pivot off of either Jefferson or Boucher. And I actually think that he's obviously the more safe play than either of those guys.
Yeah, I marked him Saric around here because I didn't know whether he was going to be chalk or low owned, so I just kind of put him kind of in the middle.
He's not going to do anything crazy, I don't think, no matter what.
Yeah,
my guess. And I just don't love this game. I just don't think it's a game that we want to target. But I do like each of all of those guys are fine as individual one-off plays. And taking a shot on a Booker, it makes some sense. And on Oubre, on FanDuel here. But like for me, mostly it's just going to be Saric, a little bit of Baines, and I don't really want to play with this game too much.
All right. So if you stack the crap out of the New York Washington game or whatever it is, and you have like a really big score up there, I would not go to sleep spending your money. Okay. So there are 3 games at 10 o'clock, 2:10 at 10 and 1 at 10:30. And, I started with these games when I did my initial review, and I spent a little bit more time on these than some of the earlier ones. And the one that I came up with as being the best game might be not the one you did, or maybe not, whatever. But I'm really into this Houston game. Okay, so I'm more into the Houston game than the New Orleans game, and the way it shapes up for me is on the Houston side, I have just really no idea which one I want between Westbrook and Harden. So I'm going to take one of each. Not in the same lineup. I'm going to split it up between the two, unless you can really talk me into the one being better than the other. They're both similarly owned, and for what I'm trying to do, I want one of them. So, and on the Sacramento side, you got 3.5 guys you project really, really well, and they don't look like they're going to run into each other's usage too much. So between Hield, Fox, and Bagley, I'm going for these guys. I'm not going to. Now I'm presuming this is kind of strange. Like what I'm looking at now, assuming Bogdanovich is out, but he could certainly play. I actually am not as into. I'm actually not as into Bogdanovich if he plays on this one. But if he does play in a stack, I'll probably use him. So it's the Hield, Fox, Bagley, and I'm really, really into Bagley. He's coming around as that kind of stud player. He's been brought back in a very useful way. And I am going to try 2 Fox with Hield, Fox with Bagley, just because he's the point guard. Maybe Bogdanovich too, if he plays. I don't think I'm going to go to Barnes or Holmes, and I am going to this is going to be one of my games.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite games as well. I think there's a huge pace upside because Sacramento had been playing slower, but with Fox back, and we have him projected for minutes tonight. I love Fox. He's one of my favorite plays on both sides at point guard. I love, because of the way point guard works on FanDuel, I think it makes more sense to play Harden, but I also think that he'll be more owned because of it than Westbrook will be. Because like if I want to play Fox, then I want to play Harden. Like that means I can't play Ish or any of the other cheap point guards we like if I play just the Fox Westbrook, which I don't mind. But there aren't the same value guys at shooting guard that I feel like have the upside that these point guards do. So it's just worth throwing out there that it, maybe build wise, you might end up more there. I do really like the Westbrook Capella combo on DraftKings. Capella is much cheaper over there at 7,600, and he should just crush this matchup. I also love the Bagley call. I think there is upside, and I don't think people are going to play him that much. This is his first home game. He had the first 2 games back. He played his back-to-back, those 2 home games, but he played low minutes because he was just coming back from injury. Then he got 4 in a row on the road, and now he's coming home. And don't be surprised if this is the game where we get Fox, Bagley, the full effort out there, the 30-plus minutes, all the projections are wrong, and we get that production, whether Bogdanovich plays or not. And by the way, I disagree with if Bogdanovich plays. If Bogdanovich plays, you're going to have a hard time keeping me off of him. This team can give up threes. They play fast. It's a situation where I could see Bogdanovich being like, I don't think I would play him, but he's so cheap with Fox. But I don't mind him and Bagley as opposed to he and Fox. And that way, like this game could be so good where you might actually be able to win with the Westbrook Harden combination. I think it's got a lot of upsides.
Well, again, what I would probably do if I was going to play Bogdan is I wouldn't mind playing Fox with Bogdan. I don't know if I play Bogdan with Hield. I mean, those are just the 2 guys that just like to shoot.
Yeah, a little bit. That could be true, but Hield is probably less on my board, more on DraftKings. But again, you got some good shooting guard options at the high end if you're going to pay down at some end of the point guards here, because we've got a lot of people. Obviously with Beal and Harden taking up a lot of interest, it's hard to argue with either of those plays. So I don't know. I'm into it. I do think that like paying down there, I don't know. I'm not going to do it. I just think that this is the game. That was the game that I would focus on. This is one of the other ones that everyone's going to focus on. But honestly, I don't see them really focusing on as much as that people think, because it's hard to figure out exactly how to play it.
Which one?
The New Orleans, Portland.
So this is what I'd say. It's interesting. I'm very similar, because when I looked at this game, like I just took a brief look at the slate. I'm like, oh, there you go. New Orleans, Portland. Let's go. Right. And then like when I started analyzing it, I looked at Minnesota Golden State first, and I looked back at this one. The one thing I did like is I liked the Portland guys, right? For whatever reason, like Whiteside, Lillard, and McCollum all look like good plays. And then I'm like, okay, this is gonna be really easy. Now I'll find the New Orleans guys.
Well, if Carmelo's out, they're all great plays.
Right. So then I'm looking at New Orleans guys, and I'm like, the best looking guy here is freaking Favors, I guess. And from a projection standpoint, and he's not too exciting, and he's highly owned. And then if I go down, I want to do these Drews and Ingrams. I don't want to play them together. And Ball doesn't look that great. So I didn't know exactly what to do on the New Orleans side. So as sick as this is, what I ended up doing is I identified the Portland guys as guys I wanted to play kind of as one-offs, kind of ignored the New Orleans guys. And when I looked at the Portland guys, I said, okay, let's look at the ownership. So Lillard was 25% owned on Fanduel. And I'm like, okay, what are these other guys? Whiteside, because all these other centers are such great plays, that Whiteside's going to be lost maybe in the shuffle. And C.J. McCollum, because all these shooting guards are going to be great plays, he might get lost in the shuffle. So maybe I end up with something like McCollum or Whiteside, and maybe I end up not being able to play Lillard because of the ownership. But it's pretty off-brand for me not to do something with Lillard and something from the other side. I just didn't find myself doing it on this slate. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like Lillard. I really like McCollum too, and I like Whiteside on other sides. I'm not going to play him over here, I don't think. I just like the other centers better. I like Ingram. I think I haven't found his way into my lineup. No, bless you. You all right?
Yeah. I just Diet Coke is like arsenic in your system.
Between the
all right.
Between the 3,500, 4,200, 4,700, 4,800 small forwards, I just don't find myself using as much of him as I maybe would like to over here. But I do think that would be the way I would go, would be more the Ingram, potentially Holiday as well with McCollum, or I even think you could play them together, McCollum and if there's no Carmelo, you can play McCollum and Lillard. But I don't think I'm going to play as much of the big man over here. I get it. It's a good matchup for him. Like maybe I should reconsider it, but I just really like my centers and not trying to get too creative.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so let's move on to the last one.
So the last game, the Minnesota Golden State. I mean, this is the ultimate cruelty. You know what I mean? They're saying Karl Anthony Towns a game time decision on a game that's at 10:30 at night on FanDuel. You know, it's rough out there. But I will say that if he in fact is out, Dang is a smash play at 4,300. I don't know when you're going to know that. I don't know if you want to play some hedges where you play some of them. I wouldn't. You know what I mean? If I don't know.
Why is he even that good of a play at 40? Like,
beats me. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I know. I just been looking at, like, I don't know. I feel like if you're – like, I don't think you play that trap on this kind of a slate. Like, maybe you – I don't know. I wouldn't do it on FanDuel. Like, I understand if you want to take a shot on draft. But even still, like, there's tons of value out there.
Okay. But if Cat's not out, if Cat doesn't play, you have Covington, you have Wiggins, you have Teague. Those are good plays too. So if Cat were out, if I knew he were out, maybe I'd do something with those guys with Green, Russell. I don't know. I mean, none of these guys look to be that great tonight. So Damian Lee, 4,300. Am I going to really waste a shooting guard on him? Maybe. I don't know. I try to force myself to play some of this game, and I just didn't quite get there.
Yeah, I found myself more on this game on DraftKings, but I do like Alec Burks at 5,600. Okay. I really like D'Angelo Russell, and I really like Draymond. And I think that I think Covington is in play no matter what at 5,300. I don't really know how else to treat this Minnesota situation without knowing. I actually think Cat probably ends up playing. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with figuring out what else to do with it because I don't really think you need to do much except for the one other guy who I really like because of the potential minutes would be Napier.
Right. Forgot about him.
Napier is somebody on Fanduel who doesn't stand out the way he does on DraftKings,
Yeah,
but on
that's right.
DraftKings he's 3.4,
Oh, really?
and we're projecting he's going to play 27 minutes tonight. So he's a staple for me over there. Whereas on Fanduel, I would prefer the ish. I think I would prefer the ish / Peyton range, but I think it's an interesting pivot if you want to go there.
Well, and you say Shabazz. Well, the good thing is Shabazz Napier being a staple. I mean, there's stuff you'll be able to do later when you need to change your lineups, I guess.
But he's 3,400. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not really that worried about him.
Right.
You know, if he gets minutes, especially if for any reason, like anybody who takes any offense away sits. I mean, he's a gunner too, man. He'll take shots. Like, he's played over 20 minutes 3 games in a row. Even his bat, like, he hasn't, it's not that he's been outstanding. He put up 35 in the last game, but he was 18 and 23 before that. So at 3,400 on DraftKings, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. It's going to be, I'm going to go watch your DraftKings things like pretty soon, because I'm curious how DraftKings differs from FanDuel today, because FanDuel, so much of this is just driven by these Washington chalk decisions, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's first of all, there's a lot of good centers, and there's a lot of good centers you could play too. I guess FanDuel might be really hard, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff, and you know, if Ish Smith is that highly owned, and if let's say Beal comes in and he becomes like 50% owned or something.
Yeah. Plenty of pivot.
I mean, you know, they don't have to smash. You know what I mean? They just don't have to.
Yeah, as of right now, just to give it away, like, I don't have Beal in any of my big lineups.
Okay.
At the moment, which feels terrible, but I'm sure I'll probably change that. But like, I just found a lot of other guys I like. Like, unlike you, I'm into Bogdanovich who plays. I like Harden. You know what I mean? I like.
I'm into Bogdanovich and just part of the stack. You know, I don't know if I put him in a one-off.
And I love, like, I'm drafting, especially. I love Draymond way more than I do on FanDuel. But I really think, like, you know, my attitude about attacking Minnesota. Like, if I don't play one of Draymond or Russell in some of my big lineups, I'm doing something wrong. And I just love the guard spot so much that it's hard for me to not want to play a little bit of Draymond.
You know what else is really disgusting? Do you realize that there's actually – imagine if everybody plays this Washington-New York game and New York, like, blows them out or something like that.
Wouldn't that be funny? It's totally possible. I mean, they could blow each other out. New York without Marcus Morris, if Taj Gibson's announced out, like, that opens up everything. Like, all the ownership on one game in New York is a very volatile – like, they have bodies. So – it's not like a 30% Julius Randle. Like, I like him when he's 15% on this slate. I don't like him when he becomes 30.
Okay, so what are we looking at? So again, we're looking. I'm sure you went over this with the drafting stuff, but we have to make sure this Detroit news falls and we analyze that right.
Yeah.
And I don't know this Embiid questionable thing. I don't know what that's all
about. If Embiid's out, we know what the story is. We can jump over to the other guys. By the way, it is Tobias Harris revenge night in Detroit, so you can go ahead and chop it. He's actually played really well in Detroit, so. Not a terrible play, but probably not the right slate for me. But anyway, yeah, I think these questions, I mean, if Sabonis is out, that opens up a whole bunch of other things. Obviously, there's a lot to go through. If there's any specific of those things, please hit us up on Twitter, and we will be happy to answer your questions. He's Sheets, PWNS, and I am BobbyFi. So, Sheets, any final thoughts on this slate before we get out of here?
No, but actually there is one thing. Again, I would not – I don't want to say what not to do, but that Minnesota Golden State game just really concerns me all the way out at 10:30 on FanDuel. You know, I wouldn't – see, normally I would say, well, maybe speculate on knowing what's going to happen out there. If it were like a 4-game slate, I would say you can try it. But I just think that you can get – I think your opportunity cost is not as bad, you know, missing it there. You're like, if you miss the Georgie Jang, if you miss Georgie Jang, I think you could make up that value elsewhere. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I much prefer the Minnesota Golden State game on DraftKings. Like I said, also the prices are better too. But I do think that somebody's going off in that game, and I would like to get Alec Burks' 40, D'Angelo Russell's 55, or Draymond's 50. So I'm playing for one of those 3.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Good doing a show with you, man. Good to have you back. I'm going to be off for Christmas, guys, but we will try to do some shows while I'm in Costa Rica. I'm actually leaving in a few hours. And
I will tell you this. I'm around. So
All right.
I'll put stuff up as long as people want it, and if your connection's bad or whatever it is.
Hopefully my connection should be good enough at the resort.
Bobby, when are you leaving? You leaving tomorrow?
I'm leaving tonight.
Okay, well we got to get something up for the Christmas.
Yeah, by the time I pictured taking off right as I just found out I won all the big tournaments tonight, so that's where I'm at.
Sounds good to me.
All right, buddy. Hey, take it easy and happy holidays to you all. Hopefully I'll be back with you shortly, and we know Sheets will be back with you real shortly.
Okay.